The house arrived on a Tuesday, and I should have known then that something was wrong. Houses don't just appear overnight in Millbrook. Population 847, where the biggest news in a decade was when old Martha's cat had kittens. But there it stood on Elm Street, wedged between the Johnsons' blue Colonial and the empty lot where the Hendersons' place burned down 3 summers ago. Victorian, 3 stories, painted the color of dried blood. Paint that looked fresh despite the house appearing ancient. I noticed it during my morning walk to the post office, the only excitement in my daily routine since retiring from the county library. At 45, I'd grown comfortable with solitude, preferred books to people, silence to small talk. But this house made my skin crawl in a way I couldn't explain. "Excuse me," I said to Betty Morrison behind the post office counter. "Do you know anything about the new house on Elm?" Betty's withered hands paused over the mail sorter. She had lived in Millbrook her entire 73 years, knew every foundation stone and fence post.
What house?
The Victorian, between the Johnsons and the empty lot. Betty's face went pale. She set down the letters with trembling fingers.
There's no house there, Thomas. Hasn't been since the fire.
The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across her wrinkled face. The smell of old paper and ink filled my nostrils, suddenly cloying. "I walked past it 20 minutes ago," I insisted. 3 stories, red paint, wraparound porch.
Thomas, the Henderson house was painted red before it burned.
My chest tightened. That's impossible. But as I walked back down Elm Street, my footsteps echoing off empty sidewalks, the space between the Johnsons and the lot stretched unbroken. Yellow grass, a few scattered bricks from the old foundation. Nothing else. The taste of copper filled my mouth. I stood there for 10 minutes, staring at the vacant lot, wondering if I was losing my mind. That night, the whispers started. I'd always been a light sleeper, hyper-aware of every creak and settle in my small ranch house. But these weren't the familiar sounds of old wood and settling foundations. These were voices, soft and insistent, seeping through my bedroom walls like moisture. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. The digital clock glowed 3:17 a.m. Outside, October wind rattled bare branches against my windows.
Thomas, Thomas, come home, Thomas, come home.
The voice was female, young, with a lilting accent I couldn't place. I pressed my ear to the wall, following the sound. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating through the drywall into my bones. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The air was sharp with the promise of frost, carrying the scent of dying leaves and wood smoke. My bare feet protested against the cold concrete as I walked to the side of my house, shining the light along the foundation. Nothing, just vinyl siding and the hum of my heat pump. But as I turned to go back inside, I caught a glimpse of something in my peripheral vision. A flicker of warm light, like candle flame, where the empty lot should be. When I turned to look directly, darkness, only darkness. "Dr. Palmer, I'm experiencing some unusual symptoms." I sat in the cramped office of Millbrook's only physician, surrounded by outdated magazines and the antiseptic smell that all medical facilities shared. Dr. Palmer, a soft-spoken man in his 60s, looked up from my chart.
What kind of symptoms, Thomas?
Auditory hallucinations, possibly visual ones too. I kept my voice level, clinical. Years of cataloging books had taught me precision with words. It started 3 days ago. Dr. Palmer's pen scratched against paper.
Any family history of mental illness? Recent trauma or stress?
No, nothing like that. I hesitated. But there's something else. I keep seeing a house that apparently doesn't exist. He set down his pen and leaned forward.
Tell me about this house.
I described the Victorian, its blood-red paint, the way it appeared and disappeared. Dr. Palmer listened without interruption, his expression growing more concerned.
Thomas, I'm going to prescribe a mild antipsychotic, and I'd like you to consider speaking with someone, a specialist.
The prescription bottle rattled in my jacket pocket as I walked home. Risperidone, for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. The words on the label might as well have been a death sentence for a man who'd lived his life in quiet solitude. But as I turned onto Elm Street, there it was again. The house, solid and real, smoke curling from its brick chimney. A woman in a white dress stood on the wraparound porch, her hand raised in greeting. She was beautiful in an old-fashioned way, with dark hair pinned up and pale skin that seemed to glow in the fading daylight. Our eyes met across the distance, and she smiled.
Thomas, I've been waiting for you.
I should have taken the pills, should have walked away, gone home, swallowed the antipsychotic and waited for the delusions to fade. Instead, I found myself walking up the porch steps, each board creaking under my weight. The house smelled of lavender and old wood, with an underlying scent of something burned. The woman waited by the front door, her white dress rustling in a breeze I couldn't feel. "You're not real," I said, more to myself than to her. She laughed, a sound like silver bells.
Reality is relative, Thomas. You of all people should know that.
"How do you know my name?"
I know many things about you.
She opened the front door, revealing a dimly lit hallway lined with family portraits.
I know you worked at the county library for 22 years. I know you read Proust in the original French. I know you've been alone since your mother died 5 years ago.
The hallway stretched impossibly long, the portraits watching me with painted eyes. At the far end, a staircase curved up into shadows. "What do you want?" I whispered.
To give you what you've always wanted.
She turned to face me, and I saw that her skin was translucent, veins showing blue beneath the surface.
A family, a home, a place where you belong.
"This isn't real." I backed toward the door, but it had vanished. The wall behind me was solid wood paneling, no handle, no escape.
Real is what we make it.
Her voice grew distant, echoing.
Your house is so quiet, Thomas, so empty. Here, you'll never be alone again.
The whispers started then, dozens of voices speaking in harmony. Men, women, children, all calling my name, welcoming me home. The portraits in their frames began to move, painted figures stepping out of gilded boundaries. I ran. The hallway became a maze, doors opening to reveal rooms that couldn't exist in any physical structure. A library with books written in languages that had never existed. A nursery filled with rocking horses that moved by themselves. A kitchen where pots boiled over invisible flames. My lungs burned as I searched for an exit, any exit. Behind me, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Footsteps echoed on wooden floors, not just the woman's, but dozens of others, all following, all calling.
Thomas, don't run from us. We've been so lonely. Stay, Thomas, stay with us forever.
I burst through a door and found myself in what looked like a parlor, dominated by a massive fireplace. The walls were lined with photographs, not painted portraits, but actual photographs of people I'd never seen. Men in suits from the 1920s, women in flapper dresses, children in knickers and sailor suits. All of them were looking directly at me.
They lived here once, all of them. And when they died, they stayed. Death is just another door, Thomas. Another room in the house.
I spun around, backing toward the fireplace. The heat from the flames felt real enough, singeing the hair on my arms. "You're all dead," I gasped.
Dead, alive, such limiting concepts. We prefer permanent residence.
The photographs began to move, figures stepping out of their frames with wet, squelching sounds. They reached toward me with grasping fingers, their mouths open in silent screams. I grabbed an iron poker from beside the fireplace and swung it at the nearest figure. It passed through him like mist, but he recoiled with a shriek that split my eardrums.
Iron.
The woman hissed, her beautiful face contorting with rage.
Clever boy.
I ran again, clutching the poker, using it to part the grabbing hands that reached for me from every shadow. The house fought back, walls shifting, doors slamming shut, floors tilting at impossible angles. But the iron seemed to create a barrier, a small space of reality in the nightmare. Finally, I found myself back in the original hallway. The front door had returned, solid oak with brass fittings. I lunged for the handle, locked.
There's no leaving, Thomas.
The woman materialized between me and the door, her form more solid now, more real.
We've chosen you. You belong to us now.
Why me?
Because you're already dead inside. We can smell it on you. That emptiness, that longing. You've been a ghost for years, Thomas. We're simply making it official.
She was right, and that terrified me more than anything else. Since my mother's death, since early retirement, I'd been drifting through life like a specter. No friends, no family, no connections to the living world. But I wasn't ready to stop living. Not yet. I raised the poker above my head and brought it down on the door handle with all my strength. Sparks flew, and the smell of ozone filled the air. The house shuddered around us, and somewhere in the walls, I heard screaming. The handle turned. I stumbled out onto Elm Street, gasping cold air like a drowning man. Behind me, the house flickered, becoming translucent, then solid again. The woman stood in the doorway, no longer beautiful, her face a mask of ancient rage.
You can't escape us forever. We know where you live now. We'll be waiting.
The door slammed shut with a sound like thunder, and the house faded like smoke on the wind. Once again, only the empty lot remained, marked by scattered foundation stones and the lingering smell of ash. I stood there until dawn, iron poker still clutched in my trembling hands, watching for any sign of the house's return. When the sun finally rose, painting the sky pink and gold, I walked home and flushed the pills down the toilet. I wasn't crazy. That much I knew for certain now. But I also wasn't safe. Every night since, I've heard them whispering through my walls, felt cold fingers brushing against my skin in the dark. The house may be gone, but its residents have not forgotten me. I've started carrying iron in my pockets, nails, paper clips, anything ferrous. I've lined my windows with salt and hung horseshoes above every door. Old superstitions, perhaps, but they seem to help. The antique shop in the next town over had a wrought iron bed frame from the 1890s. I bought it without haggling, moved it into my living room where I now sleep every night. The whispers are fainter there, held at bay by cold metal and colder resolve. I'm 45 years old, alone, and haunted by the dead. But I'm still alive, still fighting, still refusing their invitation to join their eternal parlor gathering. Some nights, when the wind is just right, I smell lavender and wood smoke drifting through my windows. On those nights, I grip my iron poker a little tighter and remind myself that reality, the real reality, is worth fighting for, even if you have to fight for it alone.